Welcome to today's Explainer. Look, we're diving into something absolutely fascinating today, and frankly, it's pretty essential. We're talking about the science of how modern political campaigns are literally engineered to bypass your rational thought. Now, this isn't about right versus left. This is a totally objective look at how highly sophisticated political machines exploit the very biology of the human brain to influence mass behavior. It's really a masterclass in mass persuasion, and honestly, once you see the mechanics behind it, you are never going to look at a campaign or a news broadcast the same way again.
So, I want you to take a quick second and really think about the last time you cast a ballot. Why did you choose that specific candidate? If you're like most of us, you probably assume it was a totally rational, data-driven decision. You likely feel like you carefully weighed their policies, evaluated their historical track record, and just arrived at a logical conclusion, right? Well, cognitive scientists studying the neurology of political behavior tell a drastically different story. They suggest your choice was actually heavily influenced by underlying cognitive biases that you probably didn't even know were being targeted.
Okay, let's dive into this. It's like our human brain essentially operates on two totally distinct gears. System 1 is incredibly fast, completely automatic, and highly emotional. It basically operates just below the surface and consumes very little energy. System 2, on the other hand, well, that's your slow, logical, and highly analytical brain. It is literally metabolically taxing to use. So here is the big secret of modern political strategists. They absolutely do not want to talk to your System 2. It's way too critical, it's too skeptical, and it demands actual facts. Instead, they aim their messaging exclusively at your subconscious System 1, utilizing these incredibly sophisticated tricks of rhetoric to slip right past your logical defenses.
So here's our roadmap for this explainer. 1. The brain under attack. 2. The illusion of truth. 3. Fear and the amygdala. 4. The power of framing. And finally, number 5, building your cognitive armor.
Section 1, the brain under attack and its biological shortcuts. To really grasp political manipulation, we first have to understand that our brains are just wired by evolution to relentlessly conserve energy. Section 2, the illusion of truth. Let's look at exactly why repetition works so incredibly well on us.
Logically, we like to think we verify facts by comparing them against objective data. But neurologically, our brains are actually incredibly lazy. We rely heavily on what's called cognitive ease, a concept popularized by the Nobel laureate Daniel Kahneman. Basically, when information is familiar, maybe just because you've heard it before, it gets processed super smoothly and effortlessly by the brain. The danger here is that the brain subconsciously mistakes this smooth, frictionless processing for the actual truth. On the flip side, unfamiliar or really complex information, that causes cognitive strain, which makes the brain feel naturally suspicious and on high alert. By stripping away that mental friction, politicians can completely erode your critical skepticism,
and this brilliantly illustrates exactly how this tactic plays out in the real world. Political strategists, they don't actually want to explain complex, nuanced economic policies to you. No way. Instead, they boil massive geopolitical strategies down into simple, sticky, 3 to 4 word slogans and just blast them across television, social media, and rallies. Even if you totally doubt a message at first, the constant repetition from every device and every screen forces your brain into that state of cognitive ease. Over time, that engineered familiarity begins to feel just like the truth. Let's move to Section 3 and see how this builds into fear and the amygdala, the biological hijack. Now, if repetition is the key to belief, fear is absolutely the ultimate biological tool for behavioral control. Deep inside your brain is this tiny almond-shaped cluster of neurons called the amygdala. It's basically your evolutionary alarm system, designed to process primal emotions, primarily fear. When it perceives a threat, it instantly floods your body with cortisol and adrenaline. But here is the biological hijack. A highly active amygdala literally shuts down your prefrontal cortex. That's the part of your brain that handles logic, nuance, and long-term planning. So in a state of fear, humans neurologically lose the capacity to think critically. We're just forced straight into a primal state of survival. Knowing exactly how this works, modern campaigns follow a highly specific 3-step evolutionary tactic. Step 1. Trigger fear by framing every single issue as an existential crisis. Step 2. Direct that attention. Basically blame a scapegoat, whether that's an outgroup like immigrants, the ultra-wealthy, foreign superpowers, or just the opposing political party. And step 3, the politician presents themselves as the sole strong protector of your in-group. By intentionally triggering this biological hijack, strategists know that voters will willingly, almost instinctively trade away their logical reasoning for the promise of tribal protection. Section 4, the power of framing and loaded language. Now, what's really interesting about this slide is how the way a problem is labeled completely dictates our emotional reality. Psychologists have proven time and time again that we are deeply loss-averse. We fear losing things far more than we desire gaining them. Look at how powerfully a single word can alter mass behavior based on this. In the United States, there was historically a tax levied on the transfer of massive wealth, literally only affecting the richest 2% of the population. It was called the estate tax, and public support for it was high, mostly because estate sounds like a luxury, right? But political opponents brilliantly rebranded it as the death tax. By using the word death, they immediately triggered universal disgust and loss aversion, framing it as a tax on dying itself. Public opposition to the policy skyrocketed almost overnight, even though the actual tax policy hadn't changed by a single decimal point.
We see this loaded language constantly acting as these pre-installed psychological triggers. Just look at this comparison. Calling a group undocumented immigrants instantly evokes a humanitarian frame of empathy, but labeling that exact same group illegal aliens, that evokes a security frame of invasion and fear. Or consider military budgets. Calling it military spending sounds super aggressive and cold, while rebranding it as a defense budget triggers feelings of safety and patriotic duty. By selecting the right label, politicians completely bypass your logical evaluation of the actual policy, and they command your emotional response directly. Which brings us to Section 5, Building Cognitive Armor. This is your psychological defense against mass persuasion.
So the crucial point is figuring out how to actually protect ourselves. Psychologists recommend translating 3 specific defenses into your daily habits. First up, spot the emotional trigger. The exact moment a headline or a political speech makes you feel sudden anger, fear, or a crazy sense of urgency, hit the brakes. That emotion is a glaring warning sign that someone is actively trying to bypass your prefrontal cortex. Second, reframe the language. Practice stripping loaded words down to completely neutral, boring terms. Turn illegal invasion into unauthorized border crossings, or death tax into tax on assets over $10 million. Doing this neutralizes the emotion, and it forces your logic to step back in. And third, actively force cognitive strain. Please don't trust a claim just because it feels familiar. Actively seek out the counter-arguments and demand the actual data. Ultimately, look, politics is always going to be this high-stakes arena of persuasion. But when that persuasion evolves into engineered subconscious manipulation, your absolute greatest act of defiance is active structured media literacy. By understanding the neuroscience behind the messaging, you reclaim the power of your own logic. So I want to leave you with this provocative thought as you navigate our modern media landscape. Which of these 3 tricks, the illusion of truth, the fear hijack, or loaded framing, do you notice being used on you the most in